Yes, it's Hollie's Hotspurs back with another one. Chatting all things Tottenham, we're second to none. Special guests every time, if it's win, lose or draw. The passion is high like Harry Kane when he scores. Or when Lloris makes a world-class save. We got Hollie running the mid every game. Settle down, stick around, share your thoughts with the panel. And make sure you're subscribing to the channel, cause...
Hello and welcome, ladies and gents, to another episode of Hollie's Hotspurs Live, where today we'll be discussing, obviously, beating Pompey in the FA Cup, which was lovely jubbly, and previewing the North London derby. And with me tonight to do so, I am joined by some fabulous guests. First of all, I have super sub, aka starting 11 man tonight, which is Wes. Wes, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, all good, thank you, Hollie. Hope everybody else out there in the world is getting on all right. And yeah, looking forward to yet another show.
Yeah, it should be good. And also joining us once again is Hollie. Hollie, it's so nice to have you back on. It's going to be so weird saying Hollie all night, but how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Hollie. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. I'm kind of glad we managed to beat Pompey at the weekend, which I'm sure we're going to get into. But I'm glad you're here with us to talk about it.
Thank you for having me back on. Always a pleasure.
No, it's good. It's good. I'm thinking, what was I going to say? I want to say a big thank you to everybody that's tuning in. That Spurs podcast is already here already, and he's looking ahead to obviously the next FA Cup game. We'll get into that a bit more later on. But first of all, there's obviously been some news that has come out, and that is that Gareth Bale has retired from football. And I'm not going to lie to you, it's a bit of a sore subject, just in terms of he was the player that I kind of grew up watching and adoring. So we'll go around, not pay our respects because that's probably the wrong words, but you know what I mean.
He's not died.
He's not died. I don't really know what words to call it. But Wes, what's your kind of thoughts on obviously the magician Bale obviously retiring?
Yeah, I think, look, what a player, what a career that man had, not just in a Spurs shirt. Obviously, what he did for Real Madrid, effectively won them La Decima, which I don't think they fully appreciate, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, you know, the last couple of years of him in a Spurs shirt were just absolutely electric. You know, he was dynamite. And yeah, I genuinely think and I was saying this actually to my girlfriend earlier, that I genuinely believe, talking Premier League times, he became a world-class player, and he's probably one of the only players to really do that in Premier League times. Yes, you talk about other top players, but more often than not, they were top players already before they come to the league, or they were already at the level that they kind of stayed at. Whereas I think Bale kind of came out of nowhere and became the best player in the world, without a shadow of a doubt. And yeah, I think we can all look back now and say at times he saved us, and you know, it's probably a good season or two where he probably carried us, and we were effectively a one-man team. And it was like, if Bale didn't turn up, then you know, Spurs weren't really gonna do much. But no, honestly, what a player, and you know, watching him, you know, and he was just majestic. You know, I look back at the Lyon Europa League game with great fondness. I think, you know, two absolute worldy free kicks. And it's also, if anybody doesn't know that particular game, it's the same game that Samuel Umtiti scored that worldy goal that everybody posts up all the time. So yeah, I mean, I was really lucky that night. I saw three absolute worldy goals. So I definitely got my money's worth then. But yeah, I think, you know, what a fantastic player, and you know, arguably one of the best, you know, that we've seen on British shores, and to come out of British shores 100%.
And like I say, he's done it on all stages. I mean, I'll never forget, obviously, it weren't in a Spurs shirt, but when he did that overhead kick in, obviously, the Champions League final, I still to this day can't believe it. But Hollie, I don't know if you were kind of on the same wave as me. Like, I grew up with Bale. I had posters on my wall of Gareth Bale, and now to be the day where he's finally retired, it's a bit sad, isn't it?
It is sad. When I heard the news, I was just a bit like, I guess I just felt this wave of nostalgia. For a start, it made me feel old because, like, as you said, Hollie, you know, he was sort of a Spurs player of our generation. We grew up watching him, and I guess, you know, he's a standout player for one of the first times I think I saw real magic on the pitch in a Spurs shirt. And you mentioned that kick then, perfect example. You know, he's just been an absolute star. And I think, you know, when he returned back to the club on on a loan 2021 season. I think that it brought back that nostalgia, and it was just so nice to have him back. Welcome him back with open arms, and of course, he's just one of those players that's just always going to be part of the family. And I'd like to see him continue on. But I suppose he's reached that point in his career now. He's just played on the world stage for Wales in the World Cup, and maybe he feels like that's it for him. He can retire happy now. And who can blame him? Because what a career! Not many players can say that they've achieved the things that he did. So he'll be missed, but hopefully he may decide he's going to step into punditry or something like that, and then we'll hear from him a lot more often. So fingers crossed, we'll be hearing that lovely accent soon.
If not, it'd definitely be somewhere playing golf, that's for sure. I mean, he's finished football now. I think he had golf cool in his name, but no, you guys were all right. I think he's had an amazing career, and like you said, Hollie, I think taking them to the World Cup was probably, that was it for him. He's done all he wants to do, to leave on a high, and I wish him all the best in what he decides to do next. But like Briar's here for, we have obviously the Pompey game to discuss. Now, Wes, I'll come to you first. I'm not going to lie to you. When the team sheet came out and I saw that back line, I was a little bit stressed. I don't know how you feel about it.
I actually thought the game on Saturday was boring. It was really flat, and I'm just there like, ugh. When it comes to that particular game, because there was just absolutely nothing there. I mean, firstly, I have to say credit to Portsmouth as a whole, because they played unbelievably well, and you wouldn't think that they were on the run that they are on as a team. I think it's one win in 14 or something drastic, and drastically bad like that. But I thought they were absolutely excellent. Yes, I understand for them it's a free hit. They've got nothing to lose, kind of go out there and give everything. And I think to a man, you could probably argue that every Portsmouth player on that football pitch did that. Support was unbelievable as well. What was it? Best part of 9,000 in the ground. They were brilliant. Those fans singing from, start to finish, trying to drive their team on, and everything like that. But yeah, from a Spurs perspective, just so poor, boring, so slow. Could almost predict half the time what we're going to do. And I think, my dad is getting to that point as well now, where he can see that we're trying to work it down one side, doesn't work, right, we kind of recycle it and go out the other way, and you just know it's happening. And yeah, it was just really, really poor, I think, from our perspective. You're going into that game thinking should be a comfortable sort of 4-0, get the job done, see you later, everyone's happy type of thing. But in typical Tottenham fashion, we made it really, really difficult for ourselves. But yeah, I think in terms of the lineup, Hollie, to kind of answer your question, I think it was pretty much all we could really expect and kind of hope for. I think every Spurs fan knew there would have been changes. It's just one of those where, like I say, it was just a bit dull and a bit boring, really.
There's not a lot you can really comment on it. I think that's the problem. Like you said, Wes, the fact is that we get the ball down one side, we can't seem to break them down, so we try the other side and it still doesn't work. And Hollie, I think that comes from the fact that we obviously had the likes of Sessegnon and Emerson down the wing, and everybody knows that I'm not Emerson's biggest fan, but it does show when we have those type of players on the wing.
Well, yeah, and I think I agree with you when it comes to those players, Hollie. So I'm always going to be on your side there. And I think as well, of course, it's always nice to see Portsmouth lose. Also, being a Plymouth Argyle fan, there's a big rivalry there. So I mean, I just have to say that the last time I watched Portsmouth play, I was at Plymouth Argyle ground, and it was an amazing game. And I think it was back in March. Last year, a while ago now, but yeah, Argyle played brilliantly and ended up with the same result. Argyle won and Pompey lost, but Argyle played a lot better than Spurs, is what I'll say. And so it did almost make me wonder. I wonder if when the day comes when Spurs and Argyle play, how it'll turn out. But when you see that back line on the, I feel like it just makes your stomach drop. And then you have people, you have players start for the first time in a Spurs shirt on the starting sheet. up front and in midfield, doing an absolute amazing job, blowing our socks off, going, this is amazing. Conte giving them a real shot, and then almost blowing us away. And then you look at the back line and it's the same. And I mean, Jed Spence, bless his heart, he must be thinking, what more do I have to do? Conte's given these other players a chance. But if you'd ask me where we need to improve, it is literally the back line mostly. So when are these changes going to happen? And poor old Jed Spence, just bless him. Really, this game could have been it would have been the perfect chance for him.
It definitely would have done. Yeah, you made a valid point. Carry on, Hollie. Sorry, I didn't mean to interject then.
Oh no, it's fine. That was literally it. I was just going to say. So it was really disappointing in that perspective. But nice to see Brian Gill and Sarr really go out and also get their flowers. People now singing their praises, and it must feel really good for them. But I'm hoping that soon the same will go for Spence.
Hopefully. I mean, like Spurs podcast says, we all know that he's not a Conte player, but we're saying what Hollie said, it was the perfect opportunity to play him, with the likes of Emerson having to play. So you would have thought, being young, got a point to prove against Portsmouth, that would have been well up for this game. It would have been a chance for him to really make something of himself.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, you on the way to a game, if you ever travel with kind of people, or, you always kind of work out, who the manager might pick. And Spence was one that was for me and the people that I was going with, obviously my dad and stuff like that. He was pretty much a shoo-in for us really to start. But then when he did come on, it was a bit strange because I saw a competent right wing back. There was, he passed the ball to somebody in a white shirt, and I'm like, right, here we go. I've not seen this for a while. Even his recoveries, I think towards the back end of the game, there was a long ball sort of over the top, and you could see that Spence was already on that half turn, and he was ready. He was anticipating. He spotted that cue and that trigger to kind of drop off, and he dealt with that type of situation really, really well. I think he nodded it back to Fraser Forster, who was getting absolute pelters, by the way, from the Pompey fans, obviously ex-Southampton keeper. But and then you kind of seeing Spence go forward, and you're like, right, okay, he looked a lot more positive, and he was trying to go forward. I think the downside with Emerson and Doherty in particular on the ball is that their first thought is, it might be, can I go forward? But more often than not, they end up coming inside or going backwards. Whereas Spence was like, no, I'm going to just, try and continue to go forwards. And, even if that's getting us a throw in or something like that, at least we're a little bit higher up the pitch. So it was nice to see him get a little bit longer than the odd few minutes here and there. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of Alfie Devine. I think even just watching him warm up, he looks a player. He just looks a top player. I would have liked to have seen Harvey White potentially come on as well at some point, because it was nice to see him get his debut in midweek. And the nice little touches that have come off the back of it. Obviously, him getting his signed shirt from all the players, and then going back seeing all the academy staff, I thought was excellent. So perhaps a few more of those younger players that are on the fringes would have been nice, but I think at the same time, it was just an opportunity perhaps just to rotate a little bit, not too much. But had we, got the game done a little bit earlier on, I think we would have probably seen Harvey White and Alfie Devine come on a little bit earlier. It was just the fact that it just took us so long really to get the game won, that I think it meant that Conte couldn't really risk bringing them on any earlier.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I think that's kind of the theme in every Spurs game at the moment, regardless if it's cup game or league game. We take forever to start. And the thing is as well, Hollie, it made me laugh because the first golden opportunity actually came from Portsmouth. Now, I will butcher his name. I think his name's Hackett or something. But he tried to it was like a half overhead kick type thing. And luckily Forster managed to save it. But if that did go in, obviously it was down the end of the Portsmouth lot. That whole part of the section, although it was thriving already, would have gone absolutely insane if that went in.
I mean, you've got to give it to the fans. And as I say, it's a day out for them too. It's like, what a stadium, a massive club. And I mean, the game was theirs as well to take. I'm not saying that it wasn't. I mean, we should have played a lot better than we did, and to start with. And I mean, you just know that it would have gone absolutely nuts if that had have gone in. I mean, fair play to Forster, but But yeah, I mean, his heart must have like fell out of his chest at that point.
Definitely. I think all of us did.
All of us did, yeah. Definitely.
But no, I think because like Wes said as well, he had got so much stick the whole game, obviously being ex Southampton. They just shouldn't shout out about him. So he did do well to obviously compose himself and make sure he made obviously that save. But Hollie, I'll stick with you again because I know you've mentioned it already about Sarr and obviously the other guy in the middle that I've forgotten his name. But we'll stick with Sarr. It was Gil. We'll start with Sarr first. How impressed are you with him? Because he's only really been introduced and he's already showing the good uns.
Yeah, so a couple of months ago, I went on a trip to the Gambia, and it was just as the World Cup was about to sort of really. Well, I think we just missed the England-Senegal game out there, and obviously because Gambia's right next to Senegal, you know, a lot of them actually do support England because, you know, Premier League football is still a huge thing out there, but. I mean, Senegal, they're all, you know, buzzed about that. And I was like, well, Sarr, he's a Spurs player, And then, you know, you see him play so well for Senegal in the World Cup. It was really nice for him to come back and, you know, get his time in a Spurs shirt. And as I said, like, I think the reason why I keep talking about Spence and stuff, and yeah, he gets his time coming on, you know, when someone comes off. But I feel like I'm filled with a little bit of hope when you see these new younger players starting, and that's why I said I would like the same for Spence. But yeah, you see Sarr starting, and then you almost, you know, I was going through Twitter at the time, and it was going mad. Everyone was saying like, this fella is cooking something special. I don't know what he's cooking, but I want some of it. And it very much feels like that. So you almost kind of breathe a sigh of relief when you see someone like that perform so well, especially when you kind of go into the games a little bit doubtful, knowing that some of our best players are off injured at the moment. So, yeah, I mean, excited to see what he has in store next. But yeah, was very impressed.
It is, and that's the thing. He slots straight in, and I think Conte is believing and obviously playing the likes of Sarr and Gilwes, which I'm going to come to you for because Hill again. We've got Kuliviski that I always butcher his name wrong. We've got Decky currently off injured, obviously, but he has stepped up and he has managed to obviously bring up the goods. Do you think he's going to keep that up? I'm hoping he does, along with Sarr. Obviously, those performances he's putting in are really good.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think what is nice to see from Spurs' perspective is players coming in and almost taking their chance. We've seen so many times, and we can probably use our backline as a prime example, have fringe players getting given a chance and just not taking it. And I think that's been our massive downfall for a very, very good period of time. I mean, in terms of Pape Sarr, 70% of the world is covered by water. The other 30% is covered by him. I mean, he was everywhere on Saturday, and for me, best player on the pitch and my man of the match. But it's interesting with Bryan Hill. Obviously, 2 games ago, the Villa game, he's too lightweight, can't play in the Premier League. He then plays well against Palace, despite the fact he pretty much plays the same way, and had another good game against Portsmouth. So yeah, fingers crossed he can, continue that and give us some real competition for places in those forward areas. Because, like you said, Kulu's out injured, Richarlison's out injured, so we haven't really got much else up there. So yeah, I think it's nice to see somebody, a young player in particular, coming in and grabbing that opportunity with both hands, because we're going to need the squad, and we're going to need every single player, because we've got a lot of games coming up thick and fast. Obviously, now we're into that next round of the FA Cup. That's another game. We've still got Champions League, we've still got the Premier League, so there's going to be quite a few games coming up. So we're going to need every single player that we can get, basically. And I think Conte almost alluded to it a little bit in his interview for the Palace game, when he mentioned about, I think he started Skip, didn't he, instead of Sarr, and it was like, well, it's kind of all I've got, really. So I don't know whether that was a message to the board in saying, give me another centre mid, or do you know what, it's literally all I've got, but I trust these guys. And it's nice to sort of see, like I say, these young players coming in, taking their chance, and impressing us fans, and hopefully impressing the gaffer as well.
Definitely, and I'm hoping they keep it up. Like I said, I think Hill, for example, I was probably one of those people that said he was too lightweight, but he's proven me wrong and I'm here for it, so he can keep that up. But obviously the difference between us and Pompey was the fact that we had Harry Kane, the class man up top, that had a little bit of space, Hollie, and managed to put it into the back of the net. And then I was a bit more happy, to tell the least.
Absolutely, and you know, it makes me laugh when I see people on Twitter and stuff saying, yeah, Harry Kane, he's so reliable, the man we in him we trust and all that. And I'm like, yeah, well, what were you saying when we were kicked out of the World Cup? Do you know what I mean? And it's just nice to see him bounce back these last couple of games. You know, I can imagine that whole ordeal was a lot for him to go through, but it's really nice just to see him, you know, being so calm and so composed and getting the job done and doing what he needs to do and just proving to us why he is one of the greatest ever players. And I just adore that man. And yeah, I just love him, and I don't ever want him to leave. Basically, that's all I say. But I think sometimes, you know, it goes to show with him that, you know, he's not old, but there's players that are younger than him that he's played for the club a lot longer than other players, and he still comes out and really, you know, leaves it all out on the pitch. And just, it's nice when you see these younger players coming in and doing the same thing. It almost he's almost setting an example, I think. And, you know, especially when he's stepping in for Lloris as captain, and just, yeah, it was good to see him do what he needed to do. But I just wish we weren't second half at FC all the time, and just maybe he could just step up and do what he needs to do a little bit earlier. That's my only criticism.
It's a good criticism.
Yeah, and I can't remember what game it was, but a couple of games ago, and it was like, how many minutes passed until Harry touched the ball, and then I was like a bit like, what is going on? Because it was just a madness. But I always have to keep my faith in him, because if I don't have faith in Harry, then I lose all faith. So
that's a good motto to have.
You just got to keep positive. You got to clutch at the straws sometimes. But yes, I'm always going to be feeling the love for him.
Defo. And that's the thing, he just needed a little bit of room, and he whipped it in. But obviously he is very, very, very close to Jimmy Greaves' record. In fact, I think the stat was that they both scored the same goal on the same day as well, which is incredible. So the stats don't lie.
They don't. And you know, I think Harry Kane is a reference point for not only young centre forwards that are coming up within professional football, but obviously at the grassroots end as well. And you look at even some centre forwards that are playing now, they look up to him. You know, he's their idol. He is the one that sets the standards for the football club. He's the one that is first in at training. He's the one doing the extras. So, you know, any young strikers in the academy are seeing that and going, hold on a minute, this is Harry Kane doing it. He's world class. I need to do it. Because if he's doing it, I have to do it, because I want to get to be half the player that he is. So he is that, like I say, that reference point for us as fans almost. It's like almost Harry Kane. And when you speak about Tottenham, he's almost that first name that rolls off the tongue for a lot of people. And yeah, I think, you know, top striker. And yeah, no better opponent to face next, I would say. For him to potentially break the goal scoring record, because as we know, he loves a goal in a North London derby.
It's written in the stars. It's written in the stars. He will. That's it. He'll be the record breaker. It'll be North London derby. It's just meant to be. I just love how he's the last goal he scored. It was on that exact same day as Jimmy Greaves. And then now to beat that record, the next game is a North London derby. You just can't make it up. You just can't make it up. But we know sometimes he can just a bit under pressure. But no, we're not going to throw that out there. We're not going to say that. I'm going to take that back. Pretend I never said it, in fact. Because it's just meant to be, I believe. There's no better opportunity. No better opportunity than that.
100%. And that leads us on very nicely, obviously, to the next segment of the show that we're going to get onto. And I know he's grinning in the background every time we were talking about Harry Kane and Arsenal. So let's bring him in, shall we? Hello, Albert. How are you, my friend? He's on mute, as always.
That's it. That's an easy mistake to make to my Tottenham wife, Hollie. What's happening?
I'm good, man. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, I thought I'd come in and add a bit of cranberry red to the stream. So this should be interesting. Good to see Wesley McGrath as usual, and obviously meeting another Hollie as well. So it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Oh,
It's not.
hi.
It is nice to have you in, Albert. Like you say, we don't get
Are you
along
sure?
much, but you know what? We'll talk about it when you're on the show for the North London Derby preview. But because you're here, first of all, Albert, I'll come to you first. Obviously, we've spoken a little bit about Tottenham and our win at the FA Cup, which leads us on very nicely. And obviously, you heard Hollie and Wes talking about Harry Kane and the fact that he could break Jimmy Greaves' record against you. Now, with that insight, could that potentially make you feel a little bit worried? I mean, it probably won't with what you're sitting on at the moment at the top of the tree, but how does that kind of make you feel?
Nah, of course I'm not worried, man. Don't be ridiculous, man. Honestly, come on, Hollie, man. Now, listen, let's be serious, innit? Like Kane always scores against Arsenal, man. So that wouldn't even surprise me. But our defense is a little bit different than what it used to be in yesteryear. You know, I've seen some dreadful defenders at Arsenal. Yeah, I'm a bit more buoyed this season. Our away form I think all 6 metrics we're top. We're ranked first. But I actually don't think that comes into consideration come Sunday because our away record at Tottenham is atrocious, absolutely atrocious. Was it 2014, March 2014, since we beat Tottenham in the Premier League? So Thomas Rosicky days 1-0. But listen, you know what it is, Hollie. Yeah? Let me be honest. Like, I know a lot of Arsenal fans that, for example, absolutely hate Manchester United. Like, we've gone to Old Trafford in recent years thinking, you know what, we're due to give them a piping. And we still haven't done it. We still cannot go there and beat them, even though they're not at their best. So, listen, Tottenham are where they are, and the performances, you guys watch it more than I do. So, I'm sure you've been grumbling like today and probably the last few weeks. But, yeah, listen, never confident going to play Tottenham away from home. Let's be honest.
No, that's fair. I'm sorry. I was just reading Chris's comment where it says about you on mute. It's made my day that you came in on mute.
Oh, Chris.
But no, you do make some sense out of it. I mean, you must be feeling confidence. I mean, I'll come to you, Wes. Obviously, with them at the top and us a little bit further down, it doesn't obviously size up good in our favour. But we've spoken a little bit about Juju and the fact that Harry Kane could obviously beat his record, and obviously the fact that we're at home. And I think at home, we could really turn on the tides.
Yeah, firstly, big up Uncle Albert. Always nice to see you, my man. Yeah, I think, look, given the form of both sides, I know form goes out the window when it's Derby Day, that old Gale cliche, as I like to say. But yeah, I think that is probably the only thing at the moment that us Spurs fans have got to kind of hold on to, because I mean, our record in big games, you know, against the other so-called top 6 is not great. I mean, especially away from home, our record is horrendous. So, yeah, like I say, I think the fact that we're at home is something that we're just holding on to a little bit. The fact that we have a half-decent record against them lot at home, again, is something that we're holding on to. But, look, I think if you want to pick and handpick a manager to kind of get you up for a game like this, I think Conte is definitely in the mix for that, in terms of motivating, you know, the players and trying to get that extra sort of 10% out of them for a game like this. Yeah, I don't think I would want kind of anybody else really on the touchline come Derby Day. Probably the only other one is a manager that we did have, which was Mourinho. In terms of that one-off game kind of feeling, that big game feeling, there's certain managers that you would seriously want in your corner fighting for you. And like I say, I think Mourinho's one and Conte is probably the other one. But yeah, listen, the nerves are kicking in because it's Derby Day. It's Derby Day. You can never really work out how it's going to go. So yeah, I think it's more nervy, I think, for us Spurs fans, because they are flying and they just are grinding out results left, right, and centre. They've found that way to win ugly, which you never associate with Arsenal teams. No. You know, it's always been that kind of pretty football, easy on the eye kind of thing. But they've got that bit of grit and determination back now to kind of do everything that it takes to win a game of football. So anyway, Oxford 1, Arsenal 0 tonight. In the
Well,
FA
that
Cup.
would make good stead for the
Of
North
course,
London derby.
sorry, just record FA Cup winners. I didn't want to say it. It is 1991 since we saw in the final last. So
Listen, we're the third most successful side, innit? We ain't won it for 30 years, so work that one out.
Oh no! Calm down, children.
No, it's all right. Sorry, Hollie. Sorry.
No, it's all right. But no, Hollie, we've spoken about obviously Pompey and the fact that we've had lots of players out, or we've had new players come in. I mean, do you think it might be a little bit of a big ask for Sarr to step straight into that game? Do you think?
Do you know what? Sometimes I've had my hopes high for players that I thought were really reliable, and they've let me down. So I don't want to say it's too much, because I feel like he could be riding a wave of the last game and actually still want to prove the point that he deserves his place. Usually we're spoilt for choice in his position, and obviously with those guys out, looking to someone that young and that fresh is quite nerve-wracking. But do you know what I say? I say, why not give him a chance? I know it's a big game, but I just feel like it's on Derby Day. You just never know what's in the fate of the gods. And yeah, I'm just putting all my hopes on Harry. Sorry, Harry.
It's gonna go do it. It'd be fine. But no, I think you make a valid point. I think, like you said, if he's riding on this wave of the fact he's played well for the last couple of games, he might thrive under that kind of pressure in that environment. I mean, Albert, you know your midfield better than I do. So would you say, if you had the likes of Sarr in there, I don't know how much you've watched of Sarr, but would you say, not that you'd feel worried, because I don't know if you'd feel worried with Sarr in there, but could you see a different element of Spurs if Sarr was put in that midfield against you?
Yeah, so Hollie, too, I just have a little sweet taste of this drink, man. Almost good as top of the league, tell you that. But no,
get this all night now.
But Hollie, listen, I've been on your channel. I must admit, I've been on your channel before. I must admit, coming into North London Derby before I ask you a question, I can just sense the trepidation in Hollie's voice, and where's he just shifting around like I've never seen it before. The time I know this. But listen, I get it. It's you come up against the form team, so it's all right. But no, Hollie, no, I'll be honest, with the players you mentioned, I've not seen too much of him. I've seen a little bit more of Gil. Listen, give the guy a chance. We've got it with Fabio Vieira. Oh, he needs to build. He needs to get a bit more fit. Listen, look at Bernardo Silva at Man City. He's not exactly built like a something house. So let's be honest. To give him a chance, but. No, I don't know how your midfield sort of squared up this season, but in terms of our midfield, listen, I would say in terms of form, we're looking at the best midfield in the country. And I don't think many people could argue with that as a quartet, as a free, or whatever way you set up. Granit Xhaka has turned into Daniela De Rossi stroke Granit Xhaka. That guy has had the biggest transformation as a footballer that I've seen for many a year, from where he was to something years ago. And it helps that Arteta's playing him in a completely different position, which actually makes me smile even more, because keep him away from the defensive side of the game completely with Granit Xhaka and you'll be fine. Thomas Partey, when you keep him fit, it's amazing what happens. His injury record at Athletic Madrid was faultless, comes to Arsenal, misses quite a few games, but he's been on a run of games and he's been absolutely tremendous. I don't get too caught up in the little debates of Casemiro, Partey. Listen, they're both exceptional players. Let's have it right. And obviously, who I'm missing out? Oh yes, Captain Ødegaard, Norwegian starlight. Listen, if Tottenham will do the homework. And if you keep him quiet, you probably might have a good chance. But he's been one thing with him that I've been impressed with, and I've been looking forward to with Martin Ødegaard I don't want him to see him putting in them brilliant, consistent performances at home. He's got to do it away from home. That's one of my biggest criticisms of someone that used to play for us, Mesut Ozil. But listen, Arsenal fans, we still moan about anything. Trust me, you've seen the socials. Listen, they moan about anything. Even we win, they moan. So it's all right. But yeah, listen, it's a different Arsenal side. And yeah, I think the midfield's always a key battle in any major big game, any derby game. But I'm confident going into this one, and yeah, we'll see what happens. So let's see how it manifests.
We will see. We will see. It'll be fine. It'll be all right. But Darren makes a good point, Wes. I mean, is Ben Tinkle back for the North London derby? I don't really know, but if he is, it would be nice.
Absolutely.
Listen, we need the Uruguayan Moussa Dembele back, like ASAP Rocky. Yeah, you understand? Because our midfield, my goodness, it's been like non-existent, and it's so strange to see. Obviously, the Juventus flops, if you like, how then when they're not in our team, how bad we've been, and how kind of average we've been playing. But I'd like to know what Albert's drinking, because I think, judging by Albert's comments, the Man City midfield is now playing volleyball or something. And Partey or Casemiro. Do me a favour. Do me a favour. Like, really? Is that?
No, that's a debate that's been flying around. I don't get caught up in that, man.
Yeah, I was going to say, because there's only one winner in that one, I can assure you. But yeah, no, we need Bentancur in our midfield to, I wouldn't say stand any chance, but to have a better chance of, keeping the likes of Ferry Xhaka and whatnot quiet, on Sunday. So,
keep talking.
But listen, once Xhaka gets a card, because he loves a card.
Romero doesn't.
I'm not saying he does. I'm not saying that Romero doesn't, to be honest. But we know what Ferry Xhaka's like.
Romero could make bunting out of his red cards, to be honest.
Hollie, you took the words out of my mouth. I was just about to say that.
Yeah, I don't think Romero's been sent off for us, though. Someone might stand to correct me, but everyone's saying he loves a card. He just likes a yellow, to be honest. But yeah, like I say, I don't remember him being sent off for us or anything. So yeah, unless someone wants to correct me,
Yeah, it's not yet. I feel like Hollie's tempting fate. Maybe Xhaka and Romero will have a punch up on the pitch. But it will be an interesting one. And I think, Hollie, that's the main thing as well. We need to remember it is going to be a fiery game, and there are going to be cards, I think, dished out. But it wouldn't be a North London derby without it, would it?
Absolutely. And also, I want to keep my eyes on the managers, really, because we've got two very fiery managers that love to run up and down the touchline, and it's just. Hopefully they keep their calm and composure, because leading by example and all of that, whilst everyone else is going to be massively under pressure. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Conte's enthusiasm, and I'm sure Arsenal fans love Mikel Arteta's enthusiasm as well. But when you've got such a big game, you've got them both jumping up and down, running about, it's they've got to keep it calm for this game especially. But I won't be keeping it calm. So I also cannot be a massive hypocrite and say that. But you got to try.
Yeah, you have. No, you do make a valid point, because Albert, didn't the other week Mikel Arteta make a bit of a, should I say, tit of himself on the sideline? Do you reckon he'd be able to keep his cool in the North London derby?
Sorry, repeat the question again, Hollie. No, I'm joking. No, I'm not. No, listen, there was a lot made of it. I went to the game against Newcastle, and there's a certain section on Sky Sports, per paper talk with the journalists, and but Jonathan Liu made a good point. Actually, he said, I think it wasn't that he was kind of criticizing Arteta, because there was a few that were Mr. Keys in Dubai, and a few other people. But Hollie, the thing is, there's experienced managers, right? Because Jason Burt in the Telegraph basically said that is Arteta's inexperience. I'm like, well, that's complete nonsense, because there's experienced managers more than him who absolutely lose their nut on the pitch. Klopp against Everton, when they won 1-0, they scored in the last minute, he lost his mind. Pep Guardiola the other day kicked the water bottle in the direction of the opposing dugout.
And then ran over and was like, I'm sorry.
Don't ever get me started on Conte. But even Arteta said it himself. He needs to kind of just, listen, it's not easy, but you need to rein it in. But Jonathan Liu made a good point saying that does transcend onto the pitch. Because a lot of the Arsenal players against Newcastle, and don't get me wrong, the referee Bobby Madley was absolutely terrible, and I've been polite by using the word terrible, but and I get it, but you know what, just you do have to try and keep your cool. It's not easy, and I don't think it's going to happen on Sunday, if I'm being honest, but that he does need to be mindful of that, because that does transcend onto the pitch for the players, because Newcastle they kept it tight, and Arsenal getting frustrated, and the referee, and But it'd be interesting to see. I'm sure they'll just stay in their technical box and just sit down and just watch the game.
Of course, like they
Both
should be
managers.
doing. No, I'm joking. I think it's good to have a bit of passion because that also transcends to the players that they're there to do a job too. They need to be passionate to just get the job done. But there is a fine line, I
Keep your
feel.
cool.
And
Yes, very true.
And I feel like Conte, although I've taken the mickey out of Arteta, I feel like Conte can get on the same vibe. So I'm not being too harsh, but it would be
he can.
interesting. No, I wasn't. I was fine. I only called him a tit. It's all right. It's fine. Moving on. We also want to talk about, obviously, we've spoken about Decky a little bit, Wes, but obviously where Albert's spoken about Odegaard, I think our real creativity would come from Decky if he was on that wing. I know we have Hill and he's been playing well, but Decky is another breed.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, we kind of miss his creativity. We've missed him carrying the ball. I know Hill has tried his best to do it, but I think Kulusevski just does it in a way that is just a bit more cleverer, because I think he's okay. Granted, they're around a similar age, but I think Kulusevski's got more experience than Brian Hill, and that's not a criticism of Brian Hill at all. I just think Kulusevski is a bit more of an experienced player for his age than Brian Hill, and I think what we've missed as well actually is Kulusevski's deliveries into the box, because every time he gets that ball and he shifts it onto his left, you kind of know what's coming. Swedish Messi, but he's gonna kind of almost drive, but he does it in a way that's almost floated at the same time, and it's just begging for somebody to attack it. I think the prime example of that is Kane's winner at the Etihad, last season in the 95th minute, which was just absolute limbs, by the way, in the away end. It was crazy. But it's that kind of creativity I feel that we've missed. And again, you look at Kulusevski's assist for Bentancur in the Leeds game, and that just oozed a bit of class. Odegaard could never really. But no, in all seriousness, we seriously miss him, and fingers crossed that, like I say, him and the Uruguayan Moussa Dembele, Rodrigo Bentancur are back for Sunday, because I think if we as fans know that those two are back, we're going to be a lot calmer, I can assure you.
Oh, 100%. I definitely feel that. I mean, Hollie, do you feel the same way as well about Decky? I know we like Hill, but Decky is something else.
All I will say is gimme a ginger from Sweden, and that is what I'll say, and that is exactly how I feel about it. I remember when he first came to the club, and there was that clip of him saying, I love Juve, and hopefully I'll be back one day, and everyone was like, wow, don't bother then, and obviously he was just being very polite, as that is the man he is. Polite, but absolutely filth on the pitch, which we love to see. So get yourself a man that can do both, and that is definitely him. And he's missed a lot. And it was just the other day he said there's no better club for him than Spurs, and I mean you can just really see that in all of his performances. So I doubt you're listening to this, but if you are, rest up, love, and get yourself back soon. All right.
There we go. Wise words from Hollie. You heard it here first. Albert, with obviously Wes and Hollie's speech to Decky, do you hope that he isn't playing? Because we really hope he is, because I think he will give you something to think about.
Yeah, I love the way you say it. Say Kulusevski again, Hollie. Sorry,
I'm not saying it because I butchered it.
It's all right. It's all right. We know who you meant. It's fine, Hollie. Now, you know what? He's been excellent since he's come over for Juventus Spurs. Actually, I haven't seen too many Tottenham fans grumble about the consistency of his performances. So, I don't know what his injury situation is. I mean, is he close? He's someone I would kind of be not concerned about, because obviously we've got Mr. Benjamin White.
Ben Shite.
He's been listen, don't go on Ben White, Listen, my man's been on point this season.
So much so that Eric Dyer played more than him at the World Cup.
Well, that's not really. Well,
if I speak, I'm in big trouble, Albert.
Listen, you be careful. Don't be slagging off Ben White, man.
I'm not. I'm spitting facts, bro. I'm spitting facts.
Now, listen, let's keep that to Premier League. We're not talking about World Cup, because listen, we could talk about our beloved star boy Saka. So Just hold
Yeah,
your
fair
horses, Wes.
enough. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Just calm down, Wes. I know
We'll
you.
pipe down now.
Yeah. I know you're a bit nervy. Take some more to drink. It's fine, Wes.
Just taste of Champions League. That's all, Albert.
Oh, of course, yes. And 14 FA Cups, but it's all right. But no, the trophies don't lie. But no, what's I gonna say? But yes, Holly, your question. Sorry, repeat it again.
Would you be worried, obviously, if Decky is back fit?
Yeah, I don't know if worried's the sort of the feeling I would have. Listen, he's a good player. I'll give him his due respect. But like I said, Arsenal defensively are a very, very different unit for the last, not just this season, but there was makings of last season. And when you have a bit more confidence in your defense, you feel like you can negate the attacking prowess of Tottenham. But listen, he might not even be playing, so I don't know how close he's to playing. But listen, yeah, he's a good player, but I wouldn't be overly concerned.
And I'm going to stick with you, Albert, because obviously you've mentioned the back line, and that's as Spurs fans, we don't really like to talk about our back line. And don't ask me why, because you already know, Albert. Don't wind me up, mate. But in that kind of respects, obviously, I feel like you're just going to attack us on all fronts. That's how you're going to roll, because we have the likes of Emerson Royal at the back. But that being said, is the wing something you think that Arteta's going to be like, just hit them on the flanks, because we can't get out if we can't attack down the flanks?
Holly, the short answer to that fantastic question you just gave me is I don't know if you remember the game at the Emirates where Martinelli and Saka had a field day, they had a party, they was running rings. Hopefully they can replicate that on Sunday, because one thing of Arsenal which I've complained for many a season, apart from just the defense, is to have a bit more of a chemistry with our front three. The days of Aubameyang and Lacazette and Pepe costing so much money and the most assembled front three, all that rubbish, but they're not here anymore. But we have a free. Obviously, Jesus is injured, but there's a bit more fluidity. There's more chemistry. We look more dangerous. There's goals by committee, pace, strength, assists. So listen, I would be very confident that we can give your defense a little bit of a runaround, if I'm being honest with you, because I know how happy you are with your defense at the moment. So you know, let the games commence. But yeah, I'd be very. If I was a Tottenham fan, or you know, looking at your defense in regards to how Arsenal's front three have started this season, I would go to church on the Sunday morning.
Thanks, Albert. Cheers for that word of advice. Thank you very much. But counter arguing that, Wes, like we say, form goes out the window in this game. And we know that Albert said, obviously, they are great at going forward. We've witnessed that. Newcastle kind of managed to neutralise them. Do we kind of have any hope in our back line that we're going to be able to neutralise them, do you think?
No open Bob Ope is the short answer. But no, I think if we take confidence from how we actually defended against Arsenal at home last season and kind of use that as a template and a guide for potentially how to play against them. I know there's probably a couple of changes here and there, but I think, you know, the playing style from Arsenal doesn't change, especially under Arteta. You know, I think we have the ability and the capability to potentially keep some of their players quiet. It's just whether they decide to turn up or not on the day is another question. I don't know. I don't think any Spurs fan knows what backline we're going to get in terms of how they're going to perform. I think we could probably predict who's going to play in that back three, but we just don't know, you know, obviously with our inconsistencies at the minute, how they're going to perform. I was slightly encouraged by, you know, I think we showed some form of defensive resilience against Palace, and, you know, Palace away, as everybody knows in the Premier League, really, really tricky assignment. You know, Arsenal found that out last season, and I know they bounced back this season and got the result. But you know, it was kind of, you know, same for us really. Obviously, we had an absolute shocker away at Selhurst Park last season. Went there, put it right. And like I say, Palace is always a tricky assignment for most teams in the Premier League. So, like I say, the fact we kept a clean sheet in that game and showed some form of defensive resilience is a positive. But yeah, I mean, listen, you have to be slightly, you know, I wouldn't say concerned, I wouldn't say worried. You have to be aware is probably the right word of Arsenal's front three and what
Yes, well said.
they are capable of doing, because they have shown it consistently across the course of the season. And I think that is obviously a big reason why, you know, they are where they are in the league right now, which is very annoying.
But it hopefully won't last, because as we witnessed last
Sorry,
season,
sorry,
every
Holly.
club-
We're talking of talking of templates. I hope I'd see the template when you played Villa. I'll send a crate of wine to the middle of the Emery. That's fantastic.
Moving on away from Albert's comment, Holly, I want to talk to you obviously because we saw it in the Pompey end at the weekend about how they got behind their team, and I think this is going to be a real game that's going to be a battle of the fans as well, because I think we've got a massive duty as fans to do as well. But I also want to talk about the fact that where is it? Darren made a good point that Conte has got a full week. And I know Arsenal play tonight. It's only one game less in terms of how many days they've got till they've got another game. But I think that's a real thing. I think that is a big positive for us, for him to rally up them all together and get a full week out of them.
Yeah, I think it's not even just the physical test of you know, having another game in the week. It's also the mental test, because you almost want to save absolute every fibre of your being, don't you, for that big game at the end of the week, and you want that to be your prime focus. You don't want to risk any injury. You don't want to risk any distractions. But you know, you talk about the fans. I think it's just going to be electric. I'm so very jealous that I'm not going to be there. My flatmate's going, and I'll just hope that I'll be living vicariously through her. But yeah, I just think that the fans will totally get behind their side, and I mean it's just going to be absolute mad, and hopefully, obviously, it ends in our favour. But I think the thing that frustrates me is just obviously, you know, we finished above Arsenal last season. And now we're seeing them, you know, top of the league, absolutely smashing it. You know, that was all ours to play for. That could have been us. It should have been us. And then you really got you've got to kind of think, why isn't it? You know, it should have been us this season. You know, so it's actually quite embarrassing, not just because of the rivalry, but because obviously we finished ever so slightly above them. We made it to the Champions League, and then now there they are at the very top of the league. It also goes back to, you know, that age-old discussion of investment, you know, having a club that completely backs their manager and their beliefs and techniques. So without being too controversial and going all Jamie O'Hara on you, I will leave that there.
Oh, God. Do me a favour.
It does kind of lead into obviously coming to Albert quickly before we do score predictions, my favourite time of the day.
Yes.
But in terms of, like Holly's kind of mentioned, you were obviously put down. We all called you obviously runners, because that's what you do when you're a gunner for that game. But you've managed to bounce back, and it is quite annoying sitting here. I mean, all three of us probably agree, sitting here as a Spurs fan and seeing you push on. What do you think was like the turning point for you? Was it just being right, this is what we've got, Arteta is our man, we just need to go with him now and run with him?
Well, Holly, thanks for giving me that glowing endorsement coming into that podcast. That's fantastic. Thank you. You know, yeah. So, no, listen. I said this before. Arteta must have said something, even though he didn't get the job the first time round. He must have said something in that first interview that stuck with the Arsenal hierarchy, because you know they gave him the chance the second time round. Listen, there's a lot of Arsenal fans who listen. Let's have it right. Arteta, as much as he's been backed and whatever, if he was at certain other clubs, he would have got his P45 a long time ago, because we was on a wretched run of form. I like to think I was quite balanced with my views about Arteta, unlike some of our fan base, to be honest with you. Trust me, I've seen it. But listen, they stuck with him. They've backed him. You know, he's got, you know, talking sort of last season, in this season with some of the players that have come in. And you've got to bear in mind as well, I think what Arsenal deserve a lot more credit is the fact that we are back in Europe. So it's not a case of we're out of Europe and we've had these run of games and, you know, less games, we're playing less games than that, because we're not. And we still managed to maintain. Listen, if someone had said to me, Arsenal be in this position at this stage of the season, I would have laughed. I would have said, are you crazy? Not after what I've been seeing the last 5-10 years as an Arsenal fan. The grey hairs are coming through. That's why I got the cap on. But no, it's been listen. This has been a big surprise for me. I've got to be honest. Because even in terms of average age of the squads in the Premier League, in terms of the top 6 or 7 or whatever, Arsenal were a few years off. So I thought, realistically, as an Arsenal fan, if you're talking about a title challenge, I would say there was a good 2-3 years off. It's come a little bit earlier than I thought it would happen, but all for it, man. And yeah, he's been backed, Hollie, and I think he will be backed in January. January's not a favorite time of the month for me, I'll be honest, as an Arsenal fan, because I hate it. Our January transfer record is our activity is rubbish. But I think after what happened last season, being in a position to cement top 4 and not doing nothing in January, repeat that again, nothing. And now fast forward to this season, being top of the league, like 5 points. If you don't do something, it'd be utter complete lunacy. So listen, Arteta's going to be here for a while. Arsenal fans, the ones that are kind of against him, get used to it. And listen, we're in a good place as Arsenal fans at the moment. There was a lot of banter that for me crossed the line a little bit. Not even a Tottenham thing. It was just other rival fans. I'm like relax yourself, because Arsenal are a big club. Just calm yourself down. But we're finding ourselves in a bit of a better predicament. And listen, Arteta deserves a lot of credit. The Emirates is a good place to go now. It wasn't before. The football's good. The defensive we were doing well. We've got some very, very good players through the academy, and obviously we bought in Premier League proven players. That's the key thing, Hollie. Key thing. It should drive me mad with some of these Arsenal fans. Get the FIFA players in, get them spend 100 million. No, there's decent players within the league who have been playing in this league. They're there that you can see them play. So that's one of the big things as well. But yeah, Arteta has been backed, and listen, the Cronkies have turned on to everyone's best friend. Well, not every Arsenal fan, but just at the moment, yeah.
Just some of them. And I feel like, although we keep talking about in the fact that we hate each other out of it, I feel like there are some similarities in our clubs in the sense of we both want our clubs to do well. Your club have managed to actually put their words in their mouth and go and back their manager, while ours is still a bit in limbo, which is a whole nother conversation for a debate. Yes. But it kind of emulates what you were saying in terms of January is the window. If we want to push on and do better, we need to go and fill the gaps. And it's the same with you. If you want to cement being at the top of the table, which I hope you don't, you need to go and buy players this January transfer.
Ollie, can I ask you a quick question? Sorry, can I ask you a quick question? Obviously, all the lovely Tottenham people are there. But what else in terms of what do you feel that you need to kick this time? What position? Don't just say every position. That's too easy answer. What is the immediate surgery positions in that team?
Right back, centre back, and I don't want to say Wes will disagree with me. I don't want to say a creative midfielder because Conte's stubborn. We've seen that he don't want to play Spence. He ain't going to play a creative midfielder. And I know Wes will go, but he played Eriksen when he had to, and it was fine. But if you look at Conte, he's stubborn. So we need another, attacker in terms that can play on the wing, and then a right back and a centre back. That is proven. None of this, let's go chuck some money and hope he becomes good. That's what we need. Basically. But I know Wes, look, I can see Wes's face. I can see him disagreeing with me.
Wes is gleaming, man. Look at his forward.
No, I just think, obviously, just coming back to the whole Arteta thing, because as much as I'm a Tottenham fan, I also am a fan of football as well. But, and I think the key differences I would suggest that are kind of happening between Tottenham and Arsenal is that, yes, Arsenal stuck with Arteta when they went through that little bit of a bad run. And in terms of Arteta being backed, he's been given the players that he wants and he feels he needs, but also he's been allowed to ship the players out that he doesn't want. Yes. And the thing is, from a business perspective, which is what the Cronkies will look at it from, and they will go, hold on a minute, why do you want to get rid of somebody like Aubameyang? Because he is on X amount a week. They've, between the Cronkies and Edu, they've gone, okay, if that's what you want, that's fine. We trust you and we will back you to allow you to have every opportunity that you need to succeed. And I think that's been the big difference, because people will argue, well, Conte's had 170 million in the window. But it's like 170 million now is not what it was 5-10 years ago. 5 years ago, a club spending 170 million, you go, and 10 years ago, you're going, well, they're serious. Now it's like, okay, so what? And I also think our inability to be ruthless in the transfer window and shift players that are not good enough has let us down big time in the market. I think with Arsenal, you've seen a clear strategy, recruitment wise, on the pitch, playing wise, philosophy, and it's just running through the whole club. Tottenham feel like at the minute as a club that we are bouncing from one thing to the next, and we don't really know where to turn. I think, a few years ago, our academy was performing well. I wouldn't say thriving, but performing well. And we were seeing young players coming through within the academy. Luckily, we had somebody that was willing to give that, those young players a chance. I'm not saying that Mourinho and Conte haven't, because obviously Mourinho's introduced us to Captain Scarlet, as I like to call him, and, players like that. But it just feels like at the minute, obviously, our academy is a million miles away from performing well at youth level. And usually that is an alarm bell. But it could be because we've gone from a Pochettino philosophy at the football club to a Mourinho philosophy at the football club to a Nuno philosophy at the football club, and now a Conte one, all in the space of, 3 years? You're not going to get any continuity there. So I think those bits there are probably the key difference between Arsenal and Tottenham. And I think from an Arsenal perspective, you're seeing the fruits of that labour now because of where you are. And I think we are still a bit of a way off. And it kind of feels like, transfer wise, it feels like we ain't got a Scooby, to be honest. And, I've worked in a recruitment department, and I know that there's, strategies in place. But it just feels like at the moment, from a fan perspective, and this is me as a fan going, well, where is our identity as a club? Where are we going? And I think that's what other fans are thinking as well. And it's like, where are we actually going? Do we want to be perceived as one of these top clubs, one of these real big boys? Or are we here for vibes, basically? It's probably the best way I can put it. Conte coming out and saying in an interview that, the project here is different. We're not really necessarily here to win titles. Well, what are we here for? Are we here for vibes? Are we here for vibes? Or, are we actually going to be serious? And obviously there's talk of Pedro Porro, and we're haggling over €5 million. And it baffles me because we are the 10th richest football club in the world. How you would not want to pay that bit extra to get a player that improves the starting 11, regardless of the team or the squad, that improves the starting 11 straight away, baffles me. Honestly, baffles my brain, because you do not see it with any other club. You look at City's bench yesterday, unbelievable. Like, that bench in itself could probably do a madness on a 7-a-side. Like, do you know what I mean? You ain't getting the ball back. Do you know what I'm saying? So, and I think that's probably where we differ. I think Arsenal had it to a certain degree a few years ago, where they were able to bring in players of a high quality, but also still have other players that they could play. And I think, you don't see United really until probably the last few years cutting corners in terms of not paying X amount for different players. You see they've seen that Casemiro's become available, boom, straight away, bang. City, okay, they spend big, but they don't do it on many players. You look at Chelsea, I know they're trying to, look like they're backing their manager and they're throwing money at it. But even if you look at the Abramovich era, it was serious. Like, right, we're here to win and we're going to do what we can to win. And like I said, I don't feel like Tottenham at the minute are doing what they say they want to do. And I think that's the biggest gripe from us fans. And like I say, it's even more painful because that lot down the road have just managed to, it's just all clicked. That lot down the road, it's just all clicked for them at the right time for them, but the wrong time for us. And that's probably the best way I can sum it up.
It's all right, though. It's all right, though, because Darren says Albert's going to get more grey hairs when you lose against us at the weekend, Albert. So it's fine. And that kind of leads us into the fact that I'm going to do score predictions, because why not? So, Hollie, I'll come to you first. What are you kind of feeling? It's probably a horrible question, but what's your score prediction?
Everyone, What were you coming to me then? Did I hear my name?
Yes.
Cool. Sorry, I was just like thinking about scores in my head, and then I was thinking, did she say me? Because I was about to stop talking. Everyone always tells me I am too unrealistic, and that I am an airhead who doesn't know what I'm talking about. And to that, I'll say, actually, I'm not going to swear because I'm a professional lady. But I'll just basically say that I do not care. If you don't believe it, then it certainly ain't going to happen. So I'm going to say. I don't want to say because I think Albert's just going to laugh. Okay, right. I'm going to say 3-1.
Absolutely outrageous. No, I'm joking. No, you got
Listen, exactly. And if there's one thing that I have been called throughout my life, it is outrageous. So there you go. At least I'm consistent. Do you know what I mean? Thanks, Darren. Okay, I will say it on my chest. I'm going to say 3-1.
Well, she did kind of pause for about.
Little drum roll and everything.
It was the time it took me to lift my fist to slam it on the table.
I love the optimism, Holly. Never lose it, man. 3-1. I rate it. Albert, I'm coming to you last. Wes, what's your score prediction?
3-2 Tottenham.
Woo-hoo!
3-2 Tottenham. Because Harry Kane does and will do what Harry Kane does in a North London derby. And Heung-min Son, who also doesn't mind a goal against you, like, by the way, Uncle Albert, I think he might nick one, to be honest. I think he's, I wouldn't say due a run of goals, but I think, you know, when was the last, obviously he scored in the one last season. Albert won't know because he left by that point. Or either switched it off. But yeah, I think I think Son will score. I think Son will score, but look, I think, you know, the form that Arsenal are in and the way we're defending, like I said earlier, I hope we'd show some defensive resilience, but I would think that Arsenal would score, but I'm going 3-2. Goals galore.
I love it. And Albert, last but not least.
You sure when it comes to me, Holly?
Yeah, I'm going to put the fingers in my ears. No, I'm joking. Go on. What are you saying?
I actually think it'd be a draw.
Oh,
controversial.
Yeah. You lot will be gassed as well.
Holly knows it, man. Listen, I don't BS, man. I reckon it'd be a draw. Listen, records are there to be broken, obviously, but yeah, it's always the role reversal. We play at home, we smash you lot and beat you lot. Away from home, we don't get the win. So, but listen. Listen, I hope I'm proved wrong so I can be smiling like a Cheshire cat and walk around Southeast London, you know, hanging around with all the other lot. But no, listen, I think it'd be a 1-1.
I rate that, considering the fact you were bigging it up all stream. But I get your reasoning, Albert. I get your reasons.
Oh, I kept level-headed enough. Yeah.
You have, man. You have. You've reined it in a little bit now. You're settled. You're all right.
Listen, you brought Wes on it. I did ask you. He came a bit.
Albert's back down a little bit because he's realised it's 3 against 1.
And Darren said you're not saying it with chest.
I thought I said it pretty quickly, to be honest.
You did, to be fair.
I'll say it quicker next time we play you next season. I don't know.
The only time Albert's confident is at the Emirates. He's like, boom, straight in. No,
I was there for that one. That was beautiful day that was.
Yep. Anyway, thanks for that, Albert. Cheers. Thank you. Moving on. I want to say a big thank you to obviously my guests and everybody that's been in the chat this evening, giving off.
I mean, popping off, to be fair, isn't it?
It's been pinging. I appreciate every single one. I mean, Chris has said we should do a yellow card prediction. I don't want to do that because we all know the 2 players that are going to get booked.
We haven't got Eric Lamela either, so it's pretty pointless to be honest. God.
That is true. But no, thank you to everybody that's watched. If you're rewatching this, thank you very much. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. But I want to say a big thank you to obviously my 3 guests, and I want to do my around the circle where everybody can find him. Wes, I'm going to come to you first because I love listening to your outro every time. So hit me with it. Where can the people find you?
Yeah, so Twitter at Wezo10, unofficial Moussa Dembele fan account, probably end up being the Benton Call fan account. Moussa Dembele, greatest of all time. And then Instagram at Wezo32. See me at Tottenham games, usually up and down the country. I am 100% there on Sundays. Try and stop me if you want, but good luck because it ain't happening. So yeah, I will be there in the South Stand as well, by the way. So if anybody is in there and is watching, feel free to come and say hello. And then I run my own football coaching business as well in the Milton Keynes area, trying to help young boys and girls. So it's at Kickoff Football Academy on Facebook and Kofa MK on Instagram and TikTok. And we will be posting some content onto YouTube very, very soon as well. So again, either Kickoff Football Academy or at Kofa MK on to YouTube as well. Also got a holiday camp coming up in February half term, Valentine's week. Tetchy one. It's a bit of a sticky one at the minute, so I probably shouldn't have said that, to be honest.
No, don't whiz.
But if there are any people from Milton Keynes watching, get yourselves booked on. And yeah, that is pretty much it, to be honest.
Mate, you've made that even longer. How is that? How have you managed that?
The camp stuff. I've got to do a plug. You know what I mean?
You should be paying Hollie for that.
I'll send the invoice over.
Thanks, Wes. No, I'm joking. It's good to have you on again, Wes. And like I said, you were starting 11 this week, so it makes it even better. And Hollie, it was so nice to have you on again. It really sounds really weird saying my name, but it was so nice to have you on. Where can everybody find you?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Hollie. It's great that we've managed to make it happen again because I work really weird shifts. So thank you for your patience. You can find me at Hollie BBC on Twitter, posting mostly about Spurs/news and my day-to-day work as a journalist. And yeah, that's pretty much the only platform I will plug because Wes is taken up all the time.
Sorry, Hollie.
It's all right. You just make me laugh every time you do
it's fine.
You've got Snapchat as well.
I feel like my speech there was much like a lot of my ex-boyfriends, quick and lacking passion. But thank you very much.
That's it. Go on, Hollie. That's it. That's all that dirt. Just the dirt. That's it.
That's a mic drop right there, by the way.
That's Hollie out, man. She's gone.
I'm just hoping that my dad and my granddad aren't listening to this. But anyway,
they are.
I just thought I'd make if anything, I'll just try and end making you all laugh. So there we go.
You did that,
Hollie, aren't they super fans on your channel? Just throwing it out there.
Oh dear.
My DMs are something to behold.
We'll leave that for another day.
Yeah, please, yes.
But no, Hollie, it was lovely to have you on. And Albert, my good friend from the wrong side of London. It was so nice. Yeah, it was so nice to have you on, my friend. Where can everybody find you if they want to listen to you talk about them lot?
Hollie, my Tottenham YouTube wife. I expect the divorce papers in before the end of the season.
Yes,
I'll send you my address after this week. But no, thank you for the Tottenham fans not guiding too hard. But I didn't expect that anyway. I've been on there before. But yes, Albert JT. If I have my own channel, you might ever want to come and say hello or whatever. But I don't just cover Arsenal stuff. I do broaden it out to other football fans, and I do a particular content series called Life Stories, which has had some amazing guests on. So I'll continue to do that. But yeah, no one lined up yet, but it's coming. It's coming. So Hollie, thank you again for bringing me back on your channel. You know, it's been love coming on to see you, man. See the family as well, the Tottenham family, meeting Wes again, meeting Hollie for the first time as well. Look at that.
Lovely to meet you.
It's been fantastic to meet you, Hollie. It has been, honestly.
It's really nice to meet you now, and I'm just trying to savor all of this, love I have for you right now. Because come Sunday, I'm just gonna be like, don't even speak to me, don't even look in my direction.
We could do that.
I'll be evil. I'll be evil. So let's just make the most of it. You won't be saying that smile. You'll be like, Christ, look at that scowl.
I'll be like, that's lovely.
Oh dear, guys, it has been a very and good show. I've really enjoyed it. Chris says he's going to come watch your show, Albert, if it's on mute. It depends
Chris,
if it's on mute or not.
Don't do that, Chris. Trust me, it's all right. I'm a good one.
But no, it has been a good show. Like I say, I'm hoping after the weekend, Tottenham obviously beat Arsenal, and we can wind up Albert. But no, jokes aside, I think it's going to be a very good game. And it'd be even better tonight if Arsenal lose to Oxford, because that'd be funny too. But until next time, like I say, Hollie's Hotspurs Live is back every Monday at 7 p.m. Next week, obviously, will be the North London derby reaction. So hopefully it's a good one. Otherwise, we're all going to be sat here depressed. But like I always say, until next time, come on, you Spurs.